We were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can. 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 Now we gotta run. No more time for fun. When we're getting angry, we were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can. 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 Again, catch us if you can. Time to get a move on. We were young with all of our might. Catch us if you can.
ESPN, celebrating its 10th year as the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Today, live from Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama, the Winston 500. It is just a beautiful day here in Alabama. We have bright sunny skies. The temperature is 65 degrees. It is a little breezy, but only a 10% chance of rain. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Talladega, the world's fastest speedway. Yes, this has been the place where the world's fastest stock car lap was turned by Bill Elliott over 212 miles an hour, and the fastest 500-mile race of any kind was also held here. But it isn't quite as fast as it used to be because of the restrictor plates that NASCAR is using on these Winston Cup cars. However, when you look at the statistics, you'll see that since they have started using the restrictor plates, more cars have been running at the finish, more cars have been on the lead lap, there have been fewer caution periods and a faster average speed, so it has led to greater competition. Let's get more on this restrictor plate as we go to the pit area and jack a route.
Bob, let's give you a little education about carburetor restrictor plates. Now, this is a base plate that all the Winston Cup competitors use, and they mount it beneath their carburetor, actually to give them enough room to have all the working parts work properly. Now, you can see the openings here. Now, a couple of years ago, they introduced these 1-inch plates, and they put them beneath the base plate, and you can see the way it chokes off the air that goes into the manifold for the fuel mixture, and therefore decreases the horsepower. Now, this year, what they've done is they've introduced for Talladega a 15/16 plate. Now, you really can't tell the difference between the 15th, 16th, and the 1-inch plate with the naked eye, but for the lack of a better way to show you, we've put these little black lines. Now, that's 1/16 of an inch on a 15/16. Now, when you place that behind the plate, it decreases the horsepower by 40 horses, or as much as 5 miles an hour here at Talladega, Alabama. And for those of you that don't quite understand horsepower and how it relates to speed, imagine, if you will, in yesterday's Kentucky Derby, all 16 horses going to the post with one leg tied down.
Well, Jack, a lot of the Ford drivers feel like they've been handicapped all year long. They have yet to visit victory lane. After their performance at Daytona, which was so disappointing, they had a problem. They were all sick. In fact, they were diagnosed with acute restrictor plate itis. In fact, one car owner was concerned when he came here. He said, my car may not even make the field. Well, he was wrong. His car, driven by Mark Martin, sitting on the front row in the pole. He is joined in the front 2 rows by 3 fellow Ford drivers. On the outside front row, young Davey Allison in the Haviland Ford. Qualifying in 4th spot was Bill Elliott, and along beside Elliott, of course, the car of Neil Bonnet. But the much ballyhooed debut here of the Chevrolet Lumina. The Chevrolet Lumina starting 5th in the field with Darrell Waltrip aboard, and this is the only Chevrolet, though, qualifying in the top 10. Now, a lot of Chevrolet people are concerned. After 6 straight consecutive manufacturers' championships by the Monte Carlo, they have shelved the Monte Carlo and brought out the new Lumina. But the concern in the garage area was minimal. Many of the gurus feel maybe the Chevrolet drivers are sandbagging. Maybe they should change the name here from Talladega Superspeedway to Talladega Beach. Bob?
So we have the restrictor plate, and we have a new race car, the Lumina. There is also the racetrack itself, which has some unusual characteristics. And a little bit earlier, Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett took a look at one of these characteristics.
Bob, the first time I came to Talladega to race was 1969. I'd been racing for 6 years, and I'd never seen a racetrack that the start-finish line wasn't there, in the middle of the front straightaway. And the first time I went to practice, I came in and asked some people, where is the flagman? Oh, he's the start-finish line. Well, pray tell, where is the start-finish line? And then they pointed it out to me. It's 1,200 feet on down the racetrack where Ned Jarrett is.
And being at 1,200 feet is almost the length of most drag strips, where they can get up to 250 miles an hour in that distance. In fact, a number of races have been won here at Talladega from where Benny is to where I am here at the start-finish line. So that can be a big advantage. It gives them that much more to use the slingshot principle to get around another car, and we might see some of that here today. Now, another advantage to the drivers for the start-finish line being down here, you can see the exit of pit road about 100 feet behind me. Now, if a caution comes out, normally the front runners will dive into the pits, especially if it comes out before they get into turn 4. Okay, if you're a lap down, you stay out on the racetrack, you can get across the start-finish line before they get their service and get out here, so you've gained a lap back. And also, if you're interested in Winston Cup points, you might pick up 5 bonus points if you're in the lead lap by letting the others go into the pits. You stay out on the racetrack, get across the start-finish line, got yourself those 5 bonus points. I think we'll see a good bit of that come into play here today in the Winston 500. Bob?
Thanks, Ned. And who will cross that finish line first? Well, we'll know in about 3 hours. The largest crowd in Alabama sports history is here to witness the Winston 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. Field begins to move out. We're just a few minutes away from the start of this 500-mile race at Talladega. We'll be back in just a moment. NASCAR's Winston Cup division is here for the Winston 500 at Talladega, Alabama. The field on warm-up laps here as we're just moments away from the start of this event. Every 1989 race winner has started in the top 10, but here now is the complete starting lineup for today's Winston 500. 41 cars are standing by to take the green flag. On the pole will be Mark Martin in the number 6 Strolite Ford, qualifying at 193.061 alongside Davey Allison. In the second row, it's Neil Bonnet in number 21, the Citgo Ford, and Bill Elliott in the Coors Melling Ford, car number 9. The third row, Darrell Waltrip in the new Lumina, number 17. And outside will be Morgan Shepard of the Valvoline Pontiac, car 75. The fourth row, Harry Gant in the number 33 Skull Bandit Oldsmobile, and Phil Parsons, the defending champion of the race, in the Crown Oldsmobile, number 55. In row number 5, it's Terry Labonte in the Budweiser Ford, car number 11, and Rick Wilson in the Kodak Film Oldsmobile, car number 4. The sixth row, A.J. Foyt from Houston, Texas, is in the Copenhagen Oldsmobile, car number 14, and Jeff Bodine in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, car 5. The seventh row, rookie Dick Trickle in the number 84 Miller High Life Buick, and Kyle Petty from Randolph, North Carolina, in the Peak Antifreeze Pontiac number 42. Richard Petty starts 15th in the STP Pontiac. Alongside will be Sterling Marvin in the Sunoco Ultra Oldsmobile. Going to row number 9, it's Dale Earnhardt in the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet, car 3, and Lake Speed in the Bullseye Barbecue Oldsmobile, car number 83. In the 10th row, it's Phil Barkdahl in car number 73, the Barkdahl Racing Oldsmobile, and Larry Pearson, another rookie candidate, in the Chattanooga Chew Buick, car number 16. In the 11th row, it's Ken Schrader, who was the fastest second-day qualifier, and Brett Bodine. 12th row, Ben Hess and Jimmy Means. Starting back in the 13th row will be Michael Waltrip and Rusty Wallace. Row number 14, Greg Sachs and Dale Jarrett. And as you look at the rest of the starting lineup, you will notice that some of the drivers who have been in contention at many times this year on the Winston Cup Trail are starting in the rear of the pack. So the cars are now on the backstretch and are warming up their tires and getting the engines up to temperature before we start this event. We have several cameras that we're going to employ for you, not only covering the racetrack, but look at this one. It is Rusty Wallace's carrying this bumper cam that shoots from the rear bumper of the car. It should provide some interesting shots for you as we go throughout the afternoon. And there is the look from inside Rusty's car as he's positioned behind Jimmy Beans. Jeff Bodine will also carry one of our in-car cameras in the new Lumina. He's lined up behind the Kodak car driven by Rick Wilson, and there is Harry Gant in the Skull Bandit Oldsmobile as he is positioned right behind Darrell Waltrip for the start of the race. The field now is moving into the tri-oval. 18 degrees of banking in the tri-oval. The turns here are banked at 33 degrees. We're about 5 miles an hour slower as far as qualifying speeds are concerned this year compared to last year, but nevertheless, a lot of unanswered questions as we begin this race as to how exactly it's going to go. Will there be a lot of competition? Will we see a lot of drafting as we always have had here at Talladega? We'll stand by as the green flag has now been displayed and the Winston 500 is underway from Talladega Superspeedway. Settle back and enjoy an afternoon of racing here on ESPN.
The turns are wide here at Talladega, Bob. They can run 2 and 3 abreast, and certainly we see some of that in the first lap.
And one of the things you'll visibly notice with the restrictor plates, the cars can't get up to speed quite as fast as they used to, but now they begin to stand on the accelerator, and coming down the backstretch, we have 3 abreast racing. That is Neil Bonnet in car number 21 going to the inside and taking the lead from Mark Martin, but Davey Allison battles back on the outside as the cars are in the 33-degree banking between turns 3 and 4 for the first time. It's Bonnet and Allison side by side off of turn number 4 and into the tri-oval.
Look at this, folks. This is unbelievable. Side by side. Wow, what a first lap.
They are basically in the same formation. They have changed in spots, but it's still 2 abreast racing. 1 line on the high side and 1 line on the low side as they battle for position. Look at how the Lumina, driven by Darrell Waltrip, is trying to get down low on the racetrack. That's the red and white number 17 car. But still side by side. Bonnet to the inside. Davey Allison to the outside. In the second row there is Mark Martin at number 6 and Bill Elliott at number 9. And look at the competition from Harry Gant's in-car camera. Look at how close these cars are running.
And there's simply nowhere he could go if he could make a pass.
He's just at the mercy of what the inside line does. And the inside line, they can't go the outside line. It's just like a parade lap, side by side.
Lap number 2 is complete. We can't determine who's leading. They are virtually deadlocked side by side as they once again go into turn number 1 as we watch the action from Harry Gant's in-car camera. Neil Bonnet and Davey Allison still run side by side. Mark Martin and Bill Elliott are side by side. Then behind them comes Darrell Waltrip in the new Lumina, and to his outside is Morgan Shepard.
Darrell Waltrip told me at the driver introduction that he changed one spring 3 times this morning. He said, I couldn't make my mind up which one I wanted in. He said, I had a fast one. He said, I was afraid the wind was going to blow too much for it. He said, I had a slow one. He said, to make the car drive good. He said, it wouldn't be fast enough. He said, I finally wound up with the intermediate one. It looks like it's working okay right now.
These cars, folks, are running 195 miles an hour side by side. This is not 60 miles an hour. This is not playing. This is for real.
They are faster than they qualified, and that is understandable because of the drafting. And here is the bumper cam. We're looking from the rear of Rusty Wallace's car, and that is Michael Waltrip that we are looking at.
There's Larry Pearson on the inside getting past. Larry sort of lost the draft of the inside cars, and he's going backwards as the others come by him on the outside.
What a shot. There we see Dale Jerry trying to get by Michael Waltrip. Michael pulls up right on the bumper of Rusty Wallace.
Crystal clear picture from that bumper cam on Rusty Wallace's car. They move through the tri-oval once again. It's still Bonnet and Davey Allison side by side.
Well, who are they giving credit? Who are they giving the Winston Cup points to?
That's a very good question, Benny, because you literally cannot tell who's leading those first 3 laps. They have been virtually side by side as they cross the line every time. Now we're beginning to see some of the cars get strung out a little bit as Michael Waltrip there in the yellow car is high on the racetrack and has lost 1 position. Meanwhile, up front, it is still 2 abreast racing. At the end of the backstretch, we're still seeing Neil Bonnet and Davey Allison side by side, and look at the speed, 191.138 miles an hour.
This is unbelievable. You know, these people paid about $60, $70 for these seats today. They probably won't get to use them. No one is sitting down yet. I know I haven't.
Darrell Waltrip looking on the inside.
Waltrip trying to get to the inside of Mark Martin as they head for turn number 1. It's 3 abreast in there, and by golly, Darrell Waltrip got the job done. He now replaces Mark Martin there beside Bill Elliott. Mark Martin drops back to go alongside of Morgan Shepard.
Well, that was a bold move by Darrell, but now he's going to try to go to the front.
Maybe this Lumina has something that we haven't seen in qualifying, and in the practice period, look at this. It is Waltrip going to the front. Neil Bonnet drops back, and now it's Darrell Waltrip and Davey Allison wheel to wheel off the banking into the tri-oval.
Well, let's see if Darrell now can use that inside to get by Davey Allison. Neil Bonnet couldn't do it. They just sat there and run side by side. We'll see if Waltrip can do it.
Davey Allison is going to lead this lap, or is he?
No. I think Waltrip led the lap.
I thought Allison was going to pull ahead there and lead by a half a car length, but not so. I think Waltrip may have gotten credit for leading that lap. Anyway, it is still side-by-side racing that we are seeing in the first 5 laps, make it 6 laps of this Winston 500. 188 laps will comprise this race. They're on a 2.66-mile racetrack. Now Waltrip heading low once again down the backstretch in the number 17 car. Neil Bonnet is right behind him. Davey Allison leads the outside line with Bill Elliott and Morgan Shepard.
And there's Earnhardt.
Yeah,
5th spot. He started 17th today. He has moved up to the 5th spot.
There is the brightly colored jackets worn by the Chevrolet people as they sit in the stands and cheer their new Lumina. And it leads here at Talladega as they cross the line. Waltrip this time clearly has the lead. Waltrip is the leader. Second place, a battle between Neil Bonnet and Davey Allison. Some exciting competition in the Winston 500 from Talladega Superspeedway, and we'll be back with more of our live coverage right after these messages. Money at stake this afternoon, the purse totaling $711,000, the richest ever at Talladega. We have seen 2 cars break away from the rest. It is Davey Allison showing the way with now Dale Earnhardt in second position. In third there, the car on the inside, the red car, number 25, is Ken Schrader. He has come from 21st starting position.
And I don't think anyone expected any car in the field to be able to do that in the number of laps that we've run, which they're on the 10th lap right now. That car is strong. He had an engine problem in qualifying the first round, had to qualify the second round, was the fastest, as you mentioned when you introduced him, but he has come to the front in a hurry. That's a strong car.
And remember, Ken Schrader was the lap leader at Daytona, leading 114 of the 200 laps. We're inside Harry Gant's car once again. Let's listen to the action.
Well, Kenny Schrader's got a strong horse here at Talladega, but he's going to be tired a little bit. He went to Bradenton, Florida last night and won a 150-lap short track event down in Bradenton, Florida. They had problems getting back here. He finally arrived about 2 o'clock this morning back to Talladega. He only had a few hours sleep, and he was a little bit sleepy this morning, but he said, hey, once that green flag drops, I'm ready because I'm going to go to the front. And I believe he predicted it correctly. Bob?
All right, Jerry. Well, we're seeing him run in third position now as he is behind Dale Earnhardt and the leader of the race, Davey Allison, and just ahead of Harry Gant.
They have gotten out in single file there now. That will let them run faster around the racetrack and do a little bit better job of drafting, but it was amazing the number of laps that they ran side by side before they got in single file.
Allison leads, but look at Ken Schrader to the inside of Dale Earnhardt as he tries to make a move for second position going into turn number 1.
Well, Harry Gant maybe is going to go with him. That could help him make the move, and he did clearly pass Dale Earnhardt. Here comes Harry Gant down on the inside. He's going to suck right up on Kenny Schrader, or is he? Now here comes Earnhardt back up on the outside as Darrell Waltrip will help him. That might leave Harry Gant out to dry, as they say.
We'll see, as he is the only car on the inside line. He needs somebody to draft with. We're seeing Bill Elliott and Morgan Shepard move to the high side of him.
Not many friends out there right now. Harry finally, I believe, finds a spot to get back in.
Morgan Shepard, I think, is going to have to get back in from the 4th corner. Yes, Harry again at least got back in line, and then if Morgan Shepard had given that spot, he could have went back to about 25th or 30th in a hurry.
Good at it.
Luminas are running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The Ford of Davey Allison leads, but then the Lumina of Ken Schrader. Then that of Dale Earnhardt, and then Darrell Waltrip.
When you look at Schrader and Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine, all three of those cars are owned by Rick Hendrick. And you say, why don't those three get together? I think Ned hit the nail on the head just a moment ago. There's no friends out there today. There's no teammates. It's every man for himself.
Bill Elliott is in 5th position in the red and white number 9 car.
You see Rick Wilson on the just behind that in the yellow car, passing on the outside. Now he's got Morgan Shepard on the inside, and Paul Morgan, he needs a friend or he's going to the back.
Let's go to the pit area and Dr. Jerry Punch, who has more on the Rick Wilson run.
Well, Rick Wilson's car that he has here is nicknamed Uncle Sam. It's the same car he had in Daytona last July. As we're looking out the back of Harry Gant's Skull Bandit mount at the Rick Wilson car, it's the same car he finished 18 inches shy at Daytona last July to Bill Elliott. They nicknamed the car Uncle Sam. Why? Because it drafts so well here at Daytona and Talladega, and it's a cute little nickname for that automobile. Rick Wilson running strong here at Talladega. Bob?
All right, indeed he is. We're looking at him from out back of Harry Gant's car. Now we go back up front and see Allison still with the lead and Earnhardt running second. For a moment, a side-by-side battle between Ken Schrader and Darrell Waltrip for 3rd position, but now Schrader is going to lose a position as he gets down on the inside line.
Schrader was second the last time by, and he tried to make a pass for the lead, and look at poor Kenny. He's now about 7th or 8th and steadily going backwards.
And talk about going backwards, Speedy. Pole setter Mark Martin is all the way back to 19th right now.
Wow.
Schrader needs somebody to draft with. He is going toward the rear. Let's see if he can get back up in that single file formation, or perhaps somebody will join him down on the inside line. Jeff Bodine, his teammate, is right behind him. And Phil Parsons, now he does get back up into the drafting line.
And I tell you what, that might have been a teammate move, because it looked to me like Bodine just backed off a little bit and let Kenny Schrader get in, because Schrader was out to dry. And I want to say a moment ago, as we look from inside Jeff Bodine's car, you see those stripes on the windshield? That's metal protectors inside the car. Believe it or not, the windshield will not stand 190 miles per hour. The windshield would literally cave in were it not for those metal straps that we see.
The lead draft passing some of the slower cars already. Grant Adcox is being lapped, and so is Charlie Baker. But again, we're inside Jeff Bodine's car, and now a battle for 2nd position. It is Darrell Waltrip to the inside, but he has broken the draft.
Well, I tell you, it is going to be a game of strategy right now, and these pit crews, as they sit there, Jack and Jerry down in the pits, the pit crews today are going to have the ultimate test in keeping their cars up front, because we see what happens if they get behind. They just simply cannot go to the front that easily.
So many people criticize NASCAR for running these restrictor plates and slowing the cars down, but I'll tell you what, I think it kind of puts back into racing the mentality that you have to drive a racetrack like this.
I agree with you, Bob. I think that it puts strategy back into it. Here now is Ken Schrader down on the inside. He might be able to help Waltrip a little bit as they try to work their way back to the front after each of them got down on the inside. We see Rusty Wallace coming into the picture. Rusty started back in 26th position, and now he is up there in the top 10.
I'm trying to count how many cars are in the lead draft. I think there's about 20. The average speed of the race, 187 miles an hour. Better than the record. There is Waltrip and teammate Ken Schrader on the inside line. And now Davey Allison has also dropped to the inside line. But remember, here comes Waltrip and Schrader also on that inside line, and Dick Trickle is also there inside.
Davey Allison, I thought he might have a problem, because certainly he would not just have driven down to the inside, but he's caught down there right now, and that outside is going to move away. But here comes Waltrip and Schrader up behind him, so he might be their saving grace.
I think the problem he had is a black number 3, Dale Earnhardt.
Earnhardt with the lead. Nope, not anymore. Davey Allison recaptures 1st position. Here comes Waltrip right behind him, and Ken Schrader is also there. You are seeing a lesson in drafting at Talladega.
You know, it's unbelievable just how much the slipstream will do for these cars. It's 6-7 miles an hour at least by running together rather than being hung out to dry like Ken Schrader is right now. Please let me in, somebody, he says.
Dick Trickle is right there behind him in the number 84 Miller High Life car. There's the story right there. Davey Allison leads. Darrell Waltrip running second. Dale Earnhardt is third, as we are 18 laps into the 188-lap Winston 500. Completed 20 of 188 laps, and the leader is Davey Allison. Second place, Darrell Waltrip. Harry Gant is third, then Ken Schrader and Dale Earnhardt. There are 20 cars, make that 21 cars in the lead draft. More than half the field still running nose to tail. Now
A lot of jockeying going on.
Beginning to pass some of the slower traffic.
Ned, aren't you surprised how low these cars are running on the racetrack? You know, Darrell Waltrip and Davey Allison both running right on the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, you would think that with the restrictor plate and down a little bit of horsepower that they would run as high as they could to keep the RPMs up in the turns. But one thing that does show, look at Darrell Waltrip, how low he is on the racetrack. And that's a characteristic of Darrell, though he likes to run down there. But that also is a characteristic of a good handling race car that will stay down there. And apparently it's not hurting him as far as speed is concerned, maybe even helping him.
Darrell Waltrip has won twice as many races as any other active driver here at Talladega. He has won 4 times on this racetrack.
And of course, he would love to win today. One thing he would do is give him a $100 bonus, $100,000 bonus from Winston, since he won the Daytona 500, put him in position for the Winston Million by winning 3 of 4 of the major races this year.
Running in 5th spot is Dick Trickle. We've been talking about how well he has performed all year, but basically on the short tracks. There were some real questions, I think, about how he would perform on the Superspeedway. Well, that tells the story right there. He is right up in there, 5th position, right behind Ken Schrader, and this is his first appearance on this racetrack. Dick Trickle from Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin.
Bob, another driver that started in 3rd position, Neil Bonnet. We saw him lead the race there early. He has lost the lead draft and is all the way back to 25th position.
Now Waltrip begins to challenge Davey Allison once again, as we are seeing Waltrip go to the low side of the racetrack. There's a look at the leader, Davey Allison, and there is second place, Darrell Waltrip. Schrader and Harry Gant now begin to battle side by side for 3rd place. And here comes Gant on the inside.
Well, he tried that a little earlier and sort of got hung down there. Morgan Shepard let him back in, and he's hung down there again. Let's see if anybody let him in this time.
I don't think he's going to find a friend as easily as he did. Ooh, okay. Just a little nudge there to Labonte. That's the way to make a hole for yourself.
Yeah, that made a pretty big hole there, didn't it?
We could put a Greyhound in there.
Gant has gone into 4th. That's Terry Labonte running 5th, and then Dick Trickle. Neil Bonnet, you spoke of him a few minutes ago, Ned, and there he is. He started 3rd and currently runs 24th, and can be contributed only to the fact that he simply got out of the draft. Let's go to Jerry Punch for a comment on Neil.
Well, Bob, that's correct. In one part, he did get out of the draft and lose the lead draft, but he has a problem with the car. Apparently, what Leonard Wood and the crew are telling me is that they have a miss or a little bit of a skip in the motor on that Citgo Ford, so that car has lost some time. Now, the miss seems to be clearing up a little bit, but the car is very, very loose. They're getting very little air on that rear spoiler to keep the car in the draft, so he's having to be very careful how he drafts up behind cars. And when he has a car on his rear deck, like the Derek Cope car currently following here in the draft, it makes his car even looser, so they're going to try to get the car in on the first caution flag, change tires, and tighten it down a little bit. Bob?
All right, this is the second pack that we're looking at. This group of 7 cars running together, but they are almost a full straightaway, a full backstretch at least, behind the lead draft. And this contingent being led by Kyle Petty in car number 42. Ricky Rudd is also right there in 26. Then comes Bonnet in the 21 car. Behind him is the number 10 car of Derek Cope, and then Greg Sachs. Back to the leaders, meanwhile, it is Davey Allison continuing to lead the Winston 500. He started outside of row number 1 and has been leading most of the laps since the drop of the green. That's Waltrip in 2nd, Ken Schrader in 3rd, and Harry Gant runs 4th.
And Dale Earnhardt is falling back. He was up there among that front group a little while ago, but now he's on the inside going into turn 3, so he has dropped back to about 18th or 20th position. There he is. There's 21 cars in this lead draft, and there's 3 behind him, so that means he is running in the 18th position.
It looks like Earnhardt has a problem. I'm not sure whether or not he has a problem. Not Jack LaRue can tell us.
Well, Benny, let's tell you what the problem is. These are brand new Luminas, and both Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt went to the front, as you saw, and then they backed off. Well, the wind discussed him quite badly here at Talladega. buffet the cars around, and they were afraid maybe that they had a problem with the car. And until they could bring the cars onto pit road and check to see if there's any rubbing or not, both Jeff Hammond, the crew chief for Darrell Waltrip, and Richard Childress and Kirk Shelmerdine, who called the shots for Dale Earnhardt, have said, back out of the throttle just a little bit, ride the draft, and we'll see what happens on the first pit stop. And when you talk about Waltrip and Earnhardt, another interesting factor, you know the numbers game that Waltrip talks about, 17 is 17 and 17. Well, the Earnhardt group came up with something. They qualified 17th, and look at this. They're pitting in pit number 17. They say that might be a Talladega omen for them.
And it was 17 years ago that Darrell Waltrip made his debut in Winston Cup racing right here at the Talladega Superspeedway. So the numbers, if you believe in them, they're in Darrell Waltrip's favor.
It's a numbers game that we play on the racetrack. As far as numbers concerning speed, it's 191.904 the last lap for Davey Allison, the leader.
I tell you what, Ned, I don't believe in numbers as much as I do as in names. Kenny Bingham and Ronnie Revis. B&R Engine in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They are the fellas that build the engines for the 17 and the 25. They ran Daytona engines for B&R, and both those cars won the Daytona 500 and had the fastest car there in Schrader. As we saw Schrader go by, he's trying second. Can he get by? Yes, he's by.
Darrell has to take the escape road to the high side, but Ken Schrader has taken over second place. Darrell Waltrip back to third, and now Dick Trickle and Terry Labonte battle side by side for fourth. Trickle has used this low line on several occasions through the tri-oval here, and he's beginning to fall back a little bit now, but it seems to have worked for him on a couple of occasions.
I noticed yesterday in the last practice session that he was able to pull down on the inside coming off of a corner and either pass a car or certainly stay with them. But when you have this many cars running together and you get down on that inside, now he finds him a hole to get back in there. It can be tough on him.
So Dick Trickle is in 7th position now. We have run green all the way the first 28 laps. A tremendous pace being set by the leader, Davey Allison. We'll be back after this. Bob Jenkins, Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, Jack Arute, and Dr. Jerry Punch back at Talladega Superspeedway, where Davey Allison is in the lead. There you can see his finishes on the Superspeedways. He has the lead over Ken Schrader and Darrell Waltrip. Then comes Terry Labonte in 4th place, and then Bill Elliott as the leaders begin to move in on some of the slower traffic. Dave Marcus is on the inside and being lapped by those up front. There are now 19 cars in the lead draft as Phil Barkdahl and Dale Earnhardt have both broken away from it. Actually fallen behind it. There's the average speed, 189.623, more than 3 miles an hour faster than the race record. Let's hope we can keep up this pace all the way through and we'll not have to interrupt the flow for any caution periods.
Well, there's some guys out there right now that would love to see a caution flag because they're just simply... Dale Earnhardt is a classic example. He is, as you mentioned just a moment ago, at the back of this lead draft. He needs a caution flag to get back up there and to adjust his car as well. I was hoping maybe this lead draft would be able to use some of these slow cars and some of the guys that we've been trying to.
A.J. Foyt is in 11th position. He spent most of the weekend in Louisville for the Kentucky Derby, arriving back here late yesterday afternoon for a very few number of practice laps in the final practice session. But he is ready to race today, and A.J. Foyt, who began this race from the 11th starting position, is still in that spot.
I'd say that's quite an accomplishment that he didn't get to practice in the car after he qualified. He hopped on an airplane, I guess his own airplane, and went back to Louisville, and there's Rusty Wallace running behind A.J. Foyt as we watch out the windshield of Rusty Wallace. But Harry Gant took the A.J. Foyt car out for just a few laps of practice yesterday, but I don't think he ever got it up to speed.
Jerry Punch can entertain us with a story concerning A.J. Foyt.
Well, Bob, you mentioned that A.J. went up to Kentucky yesterday for the Kentucky Derby. He had a horse he raised at Dutch Breed Thoroughbreds. He had a horse that ran in one of the preliminary races up there called Crimson Memory. And I asked A.J. before the race, he was getting in the car, he chuckled and said, I said, how'd the horse run yesterday? He said, like a mule all day long. He said, the thing barely, I think the thing went the opposite way out of the gate. He said, but I hope I run a whole lot better today. He said, I'm going to try to hang with these leaders for most of the afternoon.
The Copenhagen Oldsmobile is not running like a mule at the moment in the lead draft. Here is the action in front of Foyt, as we see now Darrell Waltrip in that third position, but he has dropped back a little from the front two, namely Kent Schrader and the leader Davey Allison. Here is Gant working the inside line again.
He's not making any headway down there. Right behind him we see Jeff Bodine in the bright yellow car trying to get by Rick Wilson, and he made the pass going down in turn one.
From inside Jeff's car.
Looks so easy, doesn't it, Ned?
Yeah, it does look so easy, but it's not easy.
Now we look at Bodine from out the back class of the Harry Gant car.
Ooh, look at Bodine close right up on Harry on the outside. He's got position. Does Harry know he's there? That's the question.
Bodine's got him.
Yeah, he just motored right on by up there.
Wow.
There is Dale Earnhardt. Talk about being hung out to dry. He is indeed hung out to dry, running by himself. What's the update on him, Jack?
They're very concerned about the cars. We alluded to before they thought it might be just the wind kicking up, but now they're starting to check the stagger on the tires and making some changes on pit road in terms of tire stagger, because of the fact they feel that it could have been a poor choice of tires as well. But what they've done is radioed back and forth to Dale and just said, look, we know, but you've got to just hang on because track positioning is so very important here. We can't pull you onto pit road.
All right, should we continue under green, gentlemen? When can we expect the first set of pit stops?
I think they're going to pit somewhere between laps 40 and 45. That's over 100 miles, but they can go more than 100 miles on a tank of fuel with the restrictor plates. Some of them might even stretch it up over 45 miles.
And one thing that's going to happen today is when those front cars start going into the pits and making their pit stop, as we see Morgan Shepard down on the inside of Bodine, when those front leaders start making their pit stop, the other fellows are going to go in the pits as well, because they just simply cannot afford to be caught on the racetrack without someone to draft with.
And they hope that the other pit crew makes as good a pit stop as they do. That's one time they're pulling 4 other pit crews to make a good pit stop.
Morgan Shepard, the number 75 car, now runs behind Harry Gant as Morgan got himself low on the racetrack but decided to blend back up into the drafting line. Talking about fuel mileage, remember that at Daytona, Darrell Waltrip ran the last 132.5 miles on a tank of fuel. That equals out to 53 laps. We're glad you could join us on this Sunday afternoon for the Winston 500 at the world's fastest speedway, Talladega. The yellow is out, and pit road is a very busy place as virtually everyone has come in for their pit stop. And look at how Michael Waltrip is getting his tires changed. That car should not be in that particular. And there is the reason why we are under caution. Dale Jarrett has made contact with the wall coming out of turn number 4. The word is that he is okay, and also the word is that he cut a tire.
Dale has had a lot of tough luck so far this year. He just can't seem to get things going. He was running in the 16th position. It started 28th and had stayed in the lead draft until just the last couple of laps.
Hardy's team looking for the color combination that they like. Remember, the last race they had a different paint job with a dark blue and orange, and this time the paint scheme is white and orange. And the 94 car is being pushed out of the pit area by the Kodak crew of Rick Wilson.
But now they decided, well, you're on your own now. We pushed as far as we're going to push, and Sterling Marlin still can't get that car fired.
So Marlin sits along pit road, the car just moving very slightly. Now he comes to a complete stop. Don't know what could be the problem with that car. Here comes the Kodak crew once again. Now he gets the thing fired again and begins to move away.
Boy, that's an anxious moment for a driver. He knows that the leaders are going to be coming around. He says, please don't let me go a lap down. He had already lost a lot of track position, but now he just wants to stay in the lead lap.
So lap number 39, and the caution is out on Talladega Superspeedway. Dale Jarrett with an incident up in turn number 4, but he's okay, and we'll be right back. Down into the pit area, and Alan Kowicki has positioned his Xerox Ford in the pit area, and the hood is up.
Yes, I don't know. He was running in that lead draft, Bob, but apparently he has some crew. We'll take a look at the crew cam, who is on the right front tire changer of Darrell Waltrip's car. That's Eddie Dickerson. around to the left side of the car now.
Looked like they had a bit of a problem there on the right front tire.
One of the lugs apparently didn't start. He had to start it with his finger, and that took him an extra second or so.
He missed one of the lug nuts, and he had to start one of them with his hand. And it's amazing. Just that little bit makes a big difference. Jerry Punch is in the pits.
Well, gentlemen, pretty routine pit stops up here. I'm in the Mark Martin pit. They had a lot of problem getting the car to handle. They were going to come in, and as most cars want to do, change only 2 tires to maintain track position. The only major change up here was the Neil Bonnet pit, was just pitting right beside the Mark Martin pit. Neil Bonnet went from Goodyear to Hoosier. Therefore, he had to change 4 tires to try to tighten the car down. But a big problem here in the pits was a stop-and-go penalty. After the cars exited pit road, they went above the white line, and they were black flagged and brought back in. Among those, Jeff Bodine, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, and Phil Barkdahl all had to come back in for a stop-and-go, which put them at the rear of the field and cost them a lot of track position. Let's go up pit road to Jackaroo.
Yeah, well, Jerry, another victim of that stop-and-go situation, which was, all the drivers were warned about it. There's a white line down in the turns. They can't go up across that line. Davey Allison, who came in and took on right side tires and had great track positioning and would have held on to the lead on the restart, he had to come back down because the NASCAR officials told him he was going to be issued a stop-and-go penalty. So he changed the tires on the left side. So the front runners in our area have all decided to change left sides and right sides, 4 tires all the way around. And Alan Kowicki has come in for his stop-and-go because he violated what is now being called the blend line as well. Now, the problem that he had when he was down here for so long during the caution was they had a miss in the engine, so they changed a couple of the spark plugs and then sent him back out. But the problem lies in the white line down in the corners. That's where the drivers are pulling up behind the pace car, and they're making a track violation.
And that's where we're seeing Alan Kowicki. This time, he's staying down there, and they were told in the drivers' meeting, you got to stay below that white line until you get off of turn 2 and head down the backstretch.
Next time around, we'll be going back to racing. Field between turns 3 and 4, and the leader is Rusty Wallace.
And Bob, what we said at the top of the show, we had seen several cars get lapped, including Bobby Hillen and Larry Pearson, Ben Hess, several others. They got their lap back because the leaders went into the pits. They came on down across that start-finish line and got a lap back.
Rusty Wallace leads him down to the line. We saw the bumper cam there just momentarily, looking back on the second-place car of Darrell Waltrip. They moved through the tri-oval. Now remember, they're not yet to the line. It's located way down toward turn number 1. There it is. And the green flag flies, and we are now back to racing as we look at the bumper cam from Rusty Wallace's car.
Look at the start that Darrell Waltrip got on the restart. Has the lead easily coming off the second corner. Rusty in second place and Schrader in third.
He just motored right around Rusty Wallace when the green came out. Now we're seeing some jockeying for position as they go down the backstretch. 2 and 3 wide as Schrader moves to second in the Lumina. And a 3 abreast race. And there's the bumper cam now looking back on Harry Gant.
You see Schrader down on the inside of him. Here comes A.J. Foyt up on the outside.
Ernie Irvin there, so is Hut Strickland in car 57. Oh, look at how close they come out there.
Man, oh man, what great shots this is.
Foyt in the Copenhagen Oldsmobile. Look how close he moves up on Rusty Wallace. That can't be more than, well, inches.
It is very, very close. Of course, he knows he needs to be that close to do an effective job of drafting because Darrell Waltrip, Ken Schrader, and Morgan Shepard are about to get away from him.
Just an unbelievable picture from that bumper cam. Look at how crisp and clear that picture is. And look how close he gets.
He's going to bump him. Don't knock our camera out, AJ.
Unbelievable.
Well, he backed off. He must have heard me. He said, okay, I don't want to mess up with that camera.
But you know something, you're right. The first 3 cars look like they might be able to. AJ once again pulling up right on the back of Rusty Wallace. Oh, look on the outside, on the inside. Oh, man.
At speeds probably close to, if not a little over 190 miles an hour. 3 cars, meanwhile, seem to be breaking away from the lead draft. There they are.
Yeah, they had pulled farther away than they are right now. You see that second group of cars coming on now. They were farther ahead, but that good drafting that A.J. Foyt is doing on Rusty Wallace is helping them to catch these 3 cars, which Ken Schrader now is in the lead, Morgan Shepard second, and Darrell Waltrip third.
There are still 34 cars on the lead lap with 44 laps gone.
and about a half a dozen of those had gone a lap down, but as we mentioned, got a lap back during that caution period.
And now we are indeed seeing Rusty Wallace and A.J. Foyt and the others moving up, closing in. There's Michael Waltrip, also Harry Gant. This is the second pack. That's Gant, Waltrip, Brett Bodine, Neil Bonnet also in that group, Davey Allison.
Davey Allison, as was mentioned, was one of those drivers that had the stop-and-go penalty, so he was all the way at the back. He was in the front when he went into the pits. But that little miscue coming out, or just forgot the rule that they were very vivid about in the drivers' meeting. They were very emphatic about that, said we will penalize you. So we've seen that they will.
Well, there have been many violations of that rule on the racetracks that we have televised from this year. NASCAR taking a strong stand about the cars blending into traffic after they exit the pits.
Well, we were standing here watching practice from our booth yesterday afternoon, and we saw a couple of cars come out of the pits at slow speeds and went up into the lower groove right where they're going into turn one there now. And there were some cars that were up to full speed came around, and they almost had a wreck. And NASCAR pointed that out to them and said, we will not have any of that today in the race.
5 cars now are in the lead draft. Ken Schrader, Morgan Shepard, Darrell Waltrip, then A.J. Foyt. In 4th, and the 5th place car is Terry Labonte. Aerodynamically speaking, drag means less speed but more stability. Drag regulated by the rear spoiler on a Winston Cup car, explained in this track fact.
NASCAR came up with a new rule at Daytona this year regarding the rear deck spoiler. A lot of the cars were qualifying with a spoiler straight back, and even some were trying to race with maybe 5 or 10 degrees of spoiler angle. Now what that does when you lay that spoiler down like that, it gives the car a lot of straightaway speed, but it makes it very unstable in the turns. There's no down pressure on the rear tires, causing the cars to try and slide the rear end. So NASCAR came up with a rule requiring a minimum of 20 degrees of spoiler angle. Now that's for safety really, because there was a lot of accidents and a lot of spin-outs in practice and qualifying at Daytona. But you'll see some of the cars on some of the shorter tracks racing with as much as 40, 50, and 60 degrees of spoiler angle, depending on how much rear downforce they need on their rear tires.
A new restrictor plate, a new spoiler reel, and the new Lumina, all in action here at the Winston 500 in Talladega. 188 laps completed. Ken Schrader leads. Morgan Shepard runs second. Darrell Waltrip is third. Dick Trickle fourth. And look at this. Dale Earnhardt, who was all hung out to dry about 10 minutes ago, has caught the lead draft again and is in 5th position. And as a matter of fact, Dale has now moved into 4th position, passing Harry Gant. And now Gant and Dick Trickle race side by side with Terry Labonte there at number 11.
I think Earnhardt's car got so loose he couldn't drive it, especially in the draft among other cars, and he just had to back off. And now that they've made a pit stop, they got the tires, the stagger they want on them, and tightened the car up a little bit, and here he is right back up front.
Trickle using the inside line again, racing with Harry Gant. Certainly an impressive performance, though. And look at Earnhardt go to 3rd.
Well, he just drove by Darrell Waltrip on the outside like he wasn't there.
Whatever was wrong with that car isn't now, huh?
I thought Darrell had blown up when Earnhardt drove by so fast, and I'm not sure that it isn't.
Well, certainly the most impressive story so far, Ken Schrader coming from 21st starting position. He now leads the race, and Jack Arute is in his pit.
And Bob, I'm with Dennis Conner. And Dennis, you guys didn't get a chance to practice down here at Talladega because you didn't have a car ready.
Yeah, we went through some sort of bad experiences in the past several weeks, and we just haven't had time to get the car completed in time to come down here and test, so we had to do the next best thing, go to Daytona. And I'm not sure that wasn't a good move, because we had just left from Daytona with the Monte Carlo, and we sort of knew what it was going to do down there. So
now some of the people here watching this say that the Luminas have been sandbagging in qualifying because they're running quite well in the race. What's your version?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is us personally, we weren't sandbagging. We did what we could. We had a problem in the first round, and when we come back and we're fortunate enough to have the weather clear up and get a chance, we did the best we could.
Well, Harry Gant has presented himself on pit road, but for more action down that end, let's go to Jerry Punch. He's with the crew chief.
Well,
I'm with Butch Mock, who's the co-owner of the Morgan Shepard car, along with Bob Rahilly. And Butch, your car running very, very well, but you guys are thinking about changing tire brands. Why?
Well, the car's running real good right now, and been in contact with Morgan. He said the track's just a little bit greasy today, and we tried the Hoosiers yesterday afternoon in the practice, and the car seemed like it stuck a little bit better. We weren't quite as quick on the Hoosiers, but maybe for today's race, we're looking at changing tires.
Well, a lot of drivers, a lot of crew members looking at the Neil Bonnet car. He did change the Hoosiers last time in. The car had been very, very loose, and the Hoosiers will grip the track a little more. But the problem is now, remember, the Hoosier tire is 2 inches smaller than the Goodyear tire. You will see a lot more RPMs here that will push it up over 7,000 RPM, and it may be awfully tough on the engine. Maybe Benny Parsons or Ned Jarrett can comment. Fellas, can an engine stand it all day long at that much RPM?
Well, Jerry, they don't turn that many RPMs with the restrictor plates anyway. It should not affect the valve train, which is normally the thing that RPMs affect the most. So it might shoot them up another couple hundred RPM. It just might get them past the horsepower level, because the horsepower level with the restrictor plate is several hundred RPMs lower than it is without the restrictor plate.
Well, Ned, the problem, Goodyear came here with a tire they thought would work well if it was extremely warm, which it normally is at Talladega, but it's unseasonably cool today. So the hard tire that Goodyear brought is really just not gripping the track like they wanted to, so the cars are very, very loose. Now the Hoosier tires are considerably softer, and they will grip the track. That's why possibly Morgan Shepard, we've already seen Neil Bonnet, and maybe others will make the move to Hoosier tires. Let's go up to the Harry Gant pit and Jack Arute. Jack?
Well, Jerry, they've elected to stay with Goodyear tires, but the reason Harry had to come onto pit road for an unscheduled pit stop is he cut one of those hard tires down. So that was costly for him, not only in terms of track positioning, but also getting out of the sequence when it comes time to make your normal pit stops.
So a report from the pit area on what's going on down there, but the action is hot and heavy on the racetrack. Not too much for Darrell Waltrip as his car continues to slide backward. Perhaps a rear spoiler problem on that car.
Well, I think they might have bumped it up a little bit too much. He might have said, hey, it was loose before they made that pit stop, and certainly that will slow you down to make the car more stable in the turns, but it will slow you down. Let me say that Harry Gant did not lose a lap during his unscheduled pit stop. He's about probably 8 or 10 seconds in front of the leaders now, but he's running by himself.
And there are the 7 cars that are on the lead draft, led by Ken Schrader, right behind Morgan Shepard. And a little bit of racetrack back to the 3rd place car of Dale Earnhardt.
Well, and Davey Allison is up in that crew, and remember, he's one of those drivers that was penalized that stop-and-go penalty, so he has come from the rear back up to the front, and that means his car is very strong. Here's Eddie Beerswall in the Auto Finders car that's apparently having a problem coasting into the pits.
I don't know if he's going to make it or not. He's going awfully slow at that point on the racetrack. If the car should stall, that means that the caution flag will wave.
Car just barely moving. You can see how close he is to the entrance to pit road, and is he going to make it? I believe he is going to make the entrance, in which case the yellow would not come out. We'll continue to watch that situation. Now let's go to Jack Arute, who has an update on the Darrell Waltrip situation with Jeff Hammond.
Well, gentlemen, your supposition was absolutely correct. You went the wrong way with the spoiler. A little bit too much, Jeff Hammond, for Darrell Waltrip.
Yeah, it seemed like it's really hurt the car. We only went up just a little bit, but the car is real sensitive to the rear spoiler. We knew that earlier, so we're just going to have to work on it a little bit and get it back like it was and readjust the chassis rather than the rear spoiler.
How sensitive it may be?
Well, we're talking about maybe 3 to 4 degrees making a lot of difference in this car, and it's pretty evident on the racetrack right now.
Well, he's making a fine run from the front to the back right now, and these guys are really hoping for a caution.
Darrell Waltrip has slid back to 15th position because the spoiler is perhaps 3 to 4 degrees higher than it was a few laps ago, but he's beginning to catch up now with some of the others in front of him. Waltrip using the low line. That's Terry Labonte there in front of him, and there is the leader as Dale Earnhardt now begins to slip back a little as Davey Allison has taken over that 3rd position. So it's still Schrader and Morgan Shepard, then Davey Allison, and then Dale Earnhardt. Rick Wilson, Dick Trickle, and Mark Martin are also running in this group of 7. We're live at Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama for the Winston 500, and we'll be back after this. At Talladega, there are the first 3 cars: Ken Schrader, Morgan Shepard, and Davey Allison. Coming along now is Dale Earnhardt in the black number 3. Behind him is Rick Wilson in the yellow car number 4. but these three have pulled away just a little bit. Here comes Shepard. Maybe he's going to make a move here for the lead on Ken Schrader. Yes, he does.
Did you see him motion to 28 car Davey Allison? Said, I'm going. Come on if you want to go. And Davey said, okay, think I'll go with you. Now I can go.
So Schrader drops from first to third in just a matter of feet. He becomes our 7th leader of the race in the first 60 laps. Morgan Shepard, who has only one top 10 finish in Winston Cup competition this year. That was in Atlanta. But the car has been running well all weekend. He qualified good enough for the 6th starting position and now is the leader. And look at him pull away a little bit.
Wow, that's the biggest lead anyone's had all day.
Jerry Punch can offer us more on the Morgan Shepard story.
Well, normally when you come to a racetrack, you qualify with one motor, a motor that's built primarily to run maybe a half a dozen or so laps in qualifying. You take that motor out and you put a race motor in that's considerably weaker. Morgan said the qualifying motor felt so good and they felt so comfortable with their engine builder, Bob Rahilly, that the motor would run all day. They decided to leave it in, take a gamble. Morgan said, I'm going to punish this thing. I'm going to hold my foot on the floor all day long here at Talladega, and if it'll live, we'll win it. And I think Morgan may be true to his word, gentlemen.
I think you may be right. He is certainly strong at the moment, leading Allison and the others through the tri-oval once again. His best finish here at Talladega was 5th in the 1982 Winston 500. Morgan Shepard from Conover, North Carolina, in the Valvoline Pontiac.
He thought he had a shot at the pole. He was running very good in practice, but for the fans that might not realize that on Thursday, it looks like Davey Allison's going to try to make a pass. Can't do it now. But on Thursday afternoon, the first day of qualifying, they only got 12 cars qualified when rain moved in. Then they came in at 8 o'clock the next morning and finished qualifying all of the cars. The circumstances were different then. The track was slower, the air was thicker and heavier, and those who ran that day just didn't run as fast as they did in practice. So that negated his opportunity to win the pole. But he said, I got a car that can run up front, and by golly, he's proving it right now.